Hey everyone, thanks a lot for joining. It's my first time in Vancouver and first time at CityCon as well. So great weather, the sun is out, I'm really happy because I live in London, so you know. Anyway, today we're going to talk about developer empathy, a little bit about me. My name is Kunal and I work as a DevRel manager at Civo. I'm the founder of WeMakeDevs. It's a community I started during the pandemic and CNCF Ambassador, been involved in communities since I can remember from my freshman year. And yeah, really excited. Let me start with a story. So I graduated last year, but I was interning at this company. And we had a task, like one of the designers, they had to build a website and make it look great and stuff. But they made the website look great, but it was hard to use. So this made it difficult for people to find what they were looking on the website. And even when I raised some of the concerns, it was ignored because I was an intern. So they're like, oh, what do you know? Anyway. And as the project went on, they started testing it with the users. And as you can expect, they were finding it hard to use the website in terms of buying things and whatever they were selling in terms of the courses and stuff. So the teams didn't really think much about what the users wanted. And this basically caused product problems. They didn't think about the suggestions that other people were giving. And that's what this talk is all about. We're going to talk about empathy. I see a lot of mix of groups of people. We have senior engineers. We have people from various backgrounds. We have students and so many people. So something for everyone to have a key takeaway from the session today. Let me start by discussing what empathy is, right? So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings and perspectives of others. It involves placing oneself in someone else's shoes and seeing things from their point of view. But we're going to focus more on the empathy part in the tech industry, right? In the software development field or whatever. So in software development, empathy plays an essential role in understanding the needs and desires and the pain points, bless you, of the users and the team members, the future leaders, managers, all sorts of things. So quick raise of hands if you can show me, do you think it's irrelevant, what we're talking about today in the field of software engineering? No hands? Good. So the whole idea is that, when you talk about is it relevant, is empathy relevant in the whole ecosystem that we have here is, coding is all about delivering messages to people and machines. And when you're delivering messages, it leads to communication. And where there is communication, empathy plays a huge role. Some of the examples include commit messages, PRs, tests, error messages, documentation, etc. Empathy is an important aspect in software development because it will enable developers to create products that are more user-friendly and meet the needs of your intended audience. And when developers have empathy for their users, they can anticipate potential issues and design solutions to address those. This can lead to a more satisfied and loyal user base, better user engagement, and increased success for your product. In addition to that, empathy can also improve team collaboration. So we're talking about users, but we're also talking about the people you work with and communication in the software development, the life cycle. By understanding each other's perspectives and experiences, team members can work together more effectively and efficiently. Empathy can also promote a positive and inclusive work environment, which can help attract and retain the diverse talent in the industry. So overall, very crucial skill, especially in the previous, the intro they were mentioning, right now, with all the whole economy and the layoffs and stuff. So I think it's a good time to talk about that. All right, the next question I want you to ask yourself is is your team struggling? So when we talk about, let's say, when team members lack empathy for one another, it can lead to a negative work environment where individuals do not feel valued or respected, and this can lead to lower team morale. Talk about communication, which is a critical aspect because, as I mentioned, code is communication. So critical aspect of software development, and the lack of empathy can hinder the effective communication amongst your teams. So without empathy, team members may not be able to understand or appreciate each other's perspectives, and it may lead to miscommunication or misunderstandings. Product quality, a lack of empathy can result in products that do not meet the needs or desired of the target audience. Developers who lack empathy may need to design products may design products that are difficult to use, as the story I shared from my experience. And lastly, it's also a crucial aspect in problem solving, because when I was interviewing, they asked me a question, and I just gave them the right answer like that. Okay, solve this or do this. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is the most effective solution. 5-10 minutes, done. And I was rejected from the interview. And I was really confused. Why did you reject me? I gave all the right answers, and I sort of solved it really fast. And they're like, yeah, it was good, but you're not going to be working on your own. We want to see how you communicate, your thought process. You're not going to be solving problems on your own. So the interviews, it's not just about if you can get to the right answer, but how you get to it. So that was a good point for me. Help me in my future interviews. An example of how failure can help you, but yeah. All right, now let's talk about importance of empathy in software development. So yeah, building better products, increased team collaboration, as we talked about previously, improving user experience. So you can identify potential issues that users may face and design the solutions to address these issues. By putting yourselves in the user's shoes, and developers can basically create products that are more intuitive, accessible, and enjoyable to use. Cool. When we talk about empathizing with the users and understanding the needs, it's crucial in software development, and this has several benefits. The benefits include increased customer loyalty, competitive advantage, reduced costs, increased innovation. By prioritizing empathy, developers can design products that meet the need of the target audience better than their competitors, resulting in higher user satisfaction. And a few ways, when we talk about users, when we talk about developing products, let me think about what stops people, what prevents people to empathize with your users. So there's a lot of biases that we can talk about today. First one is confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is the tendency to seek out information that confirms pre-existing beliefs or assumptions while ignoring the information that contradicts them. So a developer, for example, who suffers from this confirmation bias will only seek out user feedback that confirms that their assumptions about the product, rather than seeking out feedback. So that's one way how sometimes it's what prevents empathy for developers. The second one is curse of knowledge. So the curse of knowledge is the tendency to assume that others know what we know. And developers who suffer from the curse of knowledge may assume that users have the same level of knowledge and expertise as they do. And this can also lead to products that are difficult to, for users to understand and use. So that's one. The next one is hindsight bias. So this basically is the tendency to believe that the events were more predictable after they have occurred. So developers who suffer from this bias may believe that the user feedback was obvious in retrospect, even if they did not consider it during the development process. So that has happened with me as well. Availability bias is another one, which is the tendency to rely on readily available information when making decisions, rather than seeking out more comprehensive information. And developers who suffer from this availability bias may rely on feedback from a smaller group of users, and ignore the feedback that is more difficult to obtain. How to overcome biases? So should strive to gather a broad range of user feedback and challenge them, their assumptions about the product. This can basically involve seeking out feedback from the users with different perspectives, testing the product with that diverse group of users. So in any field, not just tech, you'll see diversity and inclusion. It's only for the betterment, also for the community, your own product. But you're helping people, but it's also helping your own product and your own company. So yeah, and regularly evaluating product design with an open mind. By taking these steps, you can ensure that you're more effectively empathizing with users and creating products that meet the needs and preferences. How to apply? So when we talk about users, creating personas can help. Personas are fictional characters which you can create based upon the research to represent the different user types, and that might use your product or service in a similar way. Surveys are good. Surveys are a popular method. Don't have to emphasize much on that, but yeah, for getting user feedback. But it's also how you send out that survey. I'm not going to name like the company, but recently I got an email, and they're like, attend our 5-minute or 10-minute, 15-minute demo, and we'll pay you. So that was a little like confusing in terms of like how you're getting your clients and users and stuff. So surveys, we can talk on and on about that. But yeah, through email or social media or website pop-ups, once the survey data is collected, you can analyze the data and use it to inform for the development process ahead. User testing, it involves observing the users that are interacting with the product and in a controlled environment, and by watching the users navigate the product and noticing any issues or pain points, developers can gain valuable insights into how the users use the product and what changes have been made and stuff. It can also be conducted in person or remotely, or however you like. This is a nice step-by-step diagram that I like to present in this session when we talk about empathy with your users. So again, interviews are also a great way. So it involves speaking directly with the users to gain insights into their experiences with the product, and analytics. That's another one. Data that can provide insight into how users interact with the product, and for example, website traffic, page views, click-through rates. You can gain insights with how people use your product and what changes could be made to improve it. I do this. I have a YouTube channel, so nil plug over there. But it has an analytics dashboard that I use, and it gives all the information around your target audience and what sort of videos are popular, what sort of tutorials are popular, and obviously the comment section, like, didn't understand this, it was difficult, or whatever. So yeah, getting more feedback from people, and I think applies really well when you're talking to your users and customers. Lastly, focus groups, like groups involving together like small group of people to discuss the experiences with the product, and yeah, similarly can be conducted in person or remotely. So during the focus group, developers can ask questions around their needs and their preferences and the experiences with the product, as well as observe how the group interacts with the product. All right, so that was the user part. Now moving on to the second part of empathy, we talk about teammates. So empathy is essential for building strong and collaborative teams in several ways. For example, the first one is really important, trust. Empathy helps to build trust among team members. When a team member is demonstrating empathy, they show that they care about each other's feelings and perspectives, which can lead to an increased trust and respect. Second one is communication, as I already spoke about that. I'm not going to elaborate on it, but yeah, it can improve communication among team members. And when you understand and respect each other's perspectives, the people are more likely to listen. So this can lead to like a more productive discussion and fewer misunderstandings. Conflict resolutions. So empathy can resolve conflicts amongst team members. When team members are empathetic, they are better able to understand each other's perspectives and find mutual agreeable solutions. So this can reduce tension and promote collaboration within the teams. Creativity is another one, can promote creativity within the team. And when the team members understand the needs and desires of the target audience, they can develop more innovative solutions that meet those needs. So this can lead to new ideas and approaches that differentiate the team from their competitors, if you will, if you talk about that. Morale, another important aspect when we talk about teams. So empathy can improve team morale by creating a more positive and supportive work environment. And when the team members, I'm sure every one of you as well, when you feel like you are being understood and respected, you are more likely to feel motivated and engaged in your work. Now, how to do it? Strategies. Active listening involves fully concentrating on what the other person is trying to say. I was watching an interview by, I think it was Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, and the interviewer asked them, how do you run a good meeting? So he was like, listen more, talk less, be decisive when the time comes. This can help team members feel heard and understood, and it can promote empathy and trust within the team. Second one is you can put oneself in other shoes. It's it's the code that I've mentioned, I think, the third time now, because it's really important. The next one is practicing curiosity. Asking questions about others' experiences, thoughts, and feelings can help develop empathy. And by showing interest in others and their perspectives, the team members can better understand their needs and concerns. The next one is also around, it's called practicing perspective taking. So perspective taking involves imagining oneself in others' position and thinking about their thoughts and feelings and motivations. So that's another one. Providing support, I think that's another important one. Where I work, we have this policy, like there are no bad questions. We have a no blame culture, so people are free to ask anything, and when possible, we support each other and stuff. So offering support and encouragement to team members can also help to build empathy and trust within the team. And by just showing that you care about the well-being and the success of the team members, they are more likely to feel valued and respected. Cool. Next one is bad code. Swap the blame for honor. What I mean by that is, you join a new company, you see a nice project, and you're like, oh, this code is garbage. So what do we do? Think about, like, in life, I try to think about what I can do, not just in tech, but like if I don't have control over something, I wouldn't worry about it. But ideally, if I'm talking about this example, think of it as an archaeological site. So when archaeologists dig up stuff and they find the, like dinosaurs or whatever, and they're like, oh, this is really bad code. It's all messed up and it's not properly aligned and everything. Yeah, because it's like really old and the person probably left. So what do? You reverse engineer, you pick up the pieces, and you work with what you have. So I like to give this archaeological dig analogy when you're working with really code that you don't like, let's put it that way. Speaking of code that you don't like and you're working on it, empathy in terms of like the struggles that you are facing, like, oh, this is not a nice code and I'm feeling so much, it's taking so much of my time, and think about the next person who's gonna, work on that same repository. So it's another point, which is leave the code better than you found it. It's also, a nice practice that you can apply. Now, messaging best practices, and you talk about working with teammates. So empathy is speaking to others how you'd like to be spoken to. And when you talk about like PRs and like not assuming that, the other people, like the biases that I was talking about, not assuming that everyone has like the same level of knowledge as you. I believe that good writing is simple writing, and don't assume that everyone who is reading your writing knows everything what you're talking about. And yeah. All right, lastly, here we have empathy for future engineers. So, because that's what we're doing here, we are at the, tomorrow we starts Open Source Summit. So we talk about 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the line, who's going to manage Kubernetes or the, GitOps Foundation and everything? Folks who are kids right now. So empathy for future engineers, both in the field of when they're starting out in tech, when they're growing, when they're planning to become a contributor. So think about it. When you think about a foundation like this, like what is your mission, and who is your why would anyone want to join? So I get this question a lot. Now I want to start my own community. How do I do? So think about it. What is the mission of your community? Why would anyone want to join? What do you have in return to offer? How do you keep people engaged? We talk about future engineers and start with like someone who has just joined your team. One of the best things you can do is have readable code, because by limiting abstractions, avoiding complex logic, and using like good naming conventions. And this reminds me of a funny incident. I was working at this company. I was interning, and it was a startup back in India, and they gave me like there was a project, some pipeline, and I was asking for like, okay, can you send me like some resources? I want to get started with it. So they sent me some blogs and stuff. I was like, okay, that's fine, but can you send me some documentation? So the senior engineer was like, I am the documentation. And I was like, but I don't want to take too much of your time, I feel guilty that I'm taking so much of your time. But anyway, if you, again, find yourself in a place where there's no lack of documentation, you should probably help the future people and write good talks. When you talk about future leaders, then this is a quote I really like. Some of the finest leaders are the ones who remember what it was like to work their way up from the bottom, or who can foresee themselves in others' positions. Again, this is the fourth time I'm mentioning the seeing yourselves in other people's shoes. because it's really important. And lastly, empathetic leaders also understand imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, it's not a, if it's out of your control, then I don't think you should. It's like a bad thing, because everyone faces imposter syndrome, senior engineers, juniors, or whatever. So that's fine. Nobody invites imposter syndrome. But the thing that matters is, what do you do about it? So I think understanding it, working on it, and making sure that you get through it. So leaders understand imposter syndrome. I'd like to close this presentation with one question. Can empathy be taught? So from what we've learned today, it's often described as the ability to understand and share the feelings and perspectives of others. However, it is much more than just a feeling. It is also a skill, and just like every skill, it can be learned and developed. Empathy involves the ability to listen actively, communicating and effectively, and understanding the emotions that are experienced by others. We spoke about the users, spoke about the teams, spoke about the future leaders, and these skills that can be taught and practiced over time, much like any other skill as well. So with enough deliberate effort and practice, you can learn. Moreover, it's not a fixed trait that people are born with. While some individuals may have a natural aptitude for empathy, it is a skill that can be developed and strengthened through the efforts. And research has actually shown that empathy can be improved through training, education, and practice. So lastly, something for you to think about is reflect on a time when the lack of empathy affected a project or a relationship. And I'd like for you to consider ways to practice empathy, moving forward. Nice little quote. Thank you. If you can connect with me, I'm trying to